of life for life when you're... Oh God.
I like this that chain of thoughts that this is like going forever. As of 2021, right now, we have 53 countries around the world that still have death penalty, and these countries employ a lot of variety of different methods, for example, shooting, beheading even, lethal injection, electrocution, etc. And usually death penalty is used as a form of punishment for very serious crimes like terrorism or different types of murder. But in some countries, you can actually get killed by the law for drug trafficking or even for adultery, which it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm very curious to hear your argument, Simon, on why death penalty should exist.
First of all, I want to clarify where you have adultery and where you are getting killed for high treason and murder. In the case of Texas, the most prominent state in the US about execution, only does for murder because high treason is for the federal justice. That's why there are only 3 to 4 cases a year. This last year were only 2 cases in Texas. And if a jury seeks for death penalty, it needs to be voted unanimously. That means it can't be just voted in a 50-50, but it needs to be 100% for the jury. And Texas only uses lethal injection, no beheading, no stoning or other cruel methods. However, it has some problems and complications in the last time since the dose is not produced in the USA and needs to be imported. But since 1980s, it's only lethal injections. The USA, they use the justice or the reasoning behind it as deterrent. And on the federal level, mostly it's high treason or whistleblowing, which is a case of high treason in the USA. And we had 5 cases in the last year, 2020. And the most concerning reason for the USA is because of their classified data. Imagine the high classified data on the military level and the civil service data, which effect it can have when these leak to the public.
Okay, well, this theory of deterrence or that it would scare people away from committing serious crime is just a theory. And there's actually no evidence that it would do that. And there's actually evidence on the contrary. On the other side, let's just look at Finland. And Finland has this kind of open prison system. And this open prison system, it focuses on, instead of seriously punishing the criminals, it focuses on rehabilitating and trying to prepare the criminals to reintegrate to society. And you can see a lot of successful cases where it actually happened. And you can see that Finland's crime rates are very low. So it doesn't encourage people to commit crimes because, the prison system is not so strict. So there's actually no evidence that strict punishment would in any way deter people from committing serious crimes.
Yeah, that makes total sense in a small level. If you kill one person, it might still be a rehabilitated person. But if you imagine cases like Richard Ramirez, who killed 13 people, multiple attempts of murder, and 11 rapes, these are people that do not murder because of the circumstance, but because of satanistic and sadistic reasoning. And that's not a reason to reintegrate people because these people will commit a murder again. Despite life sentences, which in many countries are not life sentence, but 25 years or 30 years, depending on the country, making it impossible for this person to be reintegrated again. And there's a theory that dignity for humankind is not absolute, as we have it stated in the Bill of Rights of America, in England, or the Basic Law of Germany. The idea is that dignity of a person deteriorates the more violent a crime becomes, or more severe a crime becomes. In case of a petty theft, it is not justified to kill someone, apparently. And when you think about one murder, you could argue about life on life, but when you think about 13 murders, like in Richard Ramirez, the dignity of his person lowered so low that it's justified to kill him, not only for the justice, but also for the satisfaction of the public eye, because the public eye wanted him to see that. And it doesn't matter whether the execution is executor, because he was on death row for 20 years. And when you think about it, he didn't die from the execution after 20 years, but from a rather mild case of cancer, which is rather ironic. So the satisfaction of the public was given, and the justice in his dignity was given, because he had a really low dignity.
Okay, I understand your point, but there's actually now 2 points I want to make here. First of all, this life for life theory that you introduced, and I understand that the public might see that how this makes sense, but it's actually, it doesn't make any sense to take someone's life just because that person took a life or 30 lives. It's very counterproductive that you want to legalize the exact behavior that you are trying to basically repress. So it doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. And second, we should also think of innocent people, that how many people are actually sentenced to death being innocent, and there is many examples on this. There was this case in 2004, actually in 1992, that this guy was sentenced to death. They killed the guy, and then later they found out in 2004 that the guy was innocent because they found the real murderer. And they even made a documentary about it. But there's so many cases, and currently it's estimated that 4% of people in death row, they are actually innocent. And I think that even if one person is innocently dies, it just doesn't make any sense, and we should not allow this kind of law to pass, and it still exists. So to summarize it here, I very strongly hold my opinion that death sentence should not exist by any means in no countries, because it goes against its own theory. So this life for life is just completely counterproductive. Then there's so many innocent people getting killed, and we cannot allow that. And third, I also think that humans are inherently good, and society makes them corrupted. So it makes sense to take them away from society and send them to prison, but it doesn't make sense to go any way beyond that.
I understand the point of the innocent people. But when you think about the retributive theory, or the retributive justice theory, innocent people are not always the people that are, for example, committing wrong, but also the people that are indirectly affected, like family and friends. They are also punished by the legal system because their family is probably now shattered, or whatever what is going to happen with the family. And that is what the retributive theory acknowledge. But you have to think that a petty theft and a murder is handled differently. And that's the proportionality that most justice systems handle with. As Kant says in the Metaphysics of Morals, a crime must be judged based on the ground of the crime that they committed. And that's what the theory supports. It acknowledges innocent people that are sort of collateral damage done. Because a human system is never right and never flawless.
So, Simon, thank you so much for coming to this debate. And, I know that you were in some ways maybe arguing against your own opinion. I don't know, but I just wanted to ask, how did you feel about it, and how did you prepare?
Yeah, when you think about it, there is authority and liberal degree, where you can say. And most people are on the liberal side nowadays. Mm-hmm. But this argument is more an authoritarian argument, and it's really hard to swap your ideology and saying killing people is right, which is completely wrong, of course. I totally agree on your points, but thinking in the other way is the hardest job of it, and that makes makes it even harder if you talk to friends and other people knowing this topic, even lawyers. They can't even think differently because they're all in the same mind sphere, in the kind of like that. So you need to think like an authoritarian, like a king. What would he think? Killing a killer. But life on life is so outdated. That was already described in the Bible, and that is already 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So we might need to think differently nowadays instead of just eye for an eye. And it was really hard to think about that.
Yeah, but I mean, hats off to you for choosing this side, because in the beginning when we were discussing to debate about this, I was really like, I really admire you for actually choosing the kind of challenge to take on this side. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the debate. I for sure did, and I actually researched a lot also. So I think you had really good arguments. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.